By now, you've probably seen what Nano Banana Pro can do. Photos like this one, or even this one, all AI generated. But updating your entire catalog can still be pretty time consuming, especially if you have dozens or even hundreds of SKUs. So in this video, we are going to scale that process with AI automation in N8N. So instead of hours recreating one listing, we can get it all done with one click. Let me show you how it works. In my previous video, we took this average listing and used Nano Banana Pro inside Gemini, and after a little back and forth and a few tweaks, we ended up with listing images like these. So as you can see, for me, these are perfect. But today, I want to take it a step further. I want to generate these amazing listing images instantly with one click. And for that purpose, we created an AI automation that works like this. So let me show you. We have a product here, and as you can see, it is a jar of honey. And all I have to do is to take the ASIN and fill in a little form. All I need to fill in is the ASIN. So let me fill that in. And then I simply click submit. And that's all I have to do. Now we will wait roughly 5 minutes before the images are generated. What's happening in the background is that the AI automation is actually scraping the listing on Amazon. It's looking at the images, it's understanding what the product is all about, and not just the product, but also the reviews to understand the language the customers use, the issues they have, why they buy the product, why they don't like it. So the listing images can really tackle these particular points from the reviews and from the specific listing. So let's wait a few minutes and I will show you the result. So our images are ready. And first of all, we received an email which kind of summarizes the strategy for this particular product after scraping it and fully understanding it. So the AI agent determined the strategy, as you can see, the brand aesthetics, and then description for each and every single image. As you can see, image 2, emotional hook, image 3, primary use case, and so on. But what's more interesting are the specific product photos. So let's take a look at it. Let me switch in here. And these are the images we generated automatically by just adding the ASIN. So let's take a look at it. Number one, we have the emotional hook. As you can see, the image looks amazing and we have our product right here. Let's take a look at the next one, right? This would be the primary use case. Again, very beautiful. And now here, this image is like what makes the product special, you know, handpicked from Besponsible Keepers. Besponsible, I actually looked it up and they use this as their own trademarked word. And here we actually have the objection reframe. Because if we take a look at their listing, some of the reviews are actually mentioning that the customers are not very happy how the honey crystallized. So now this is actually tackling the objections, because this language used in these images is based on what the customers use. It's using the words why they love the product, but it's also tackling the objections and the issues they might have before buying it. So as you can imagine, someone is reading the reviews and the most negative reviews are that it's crystallized, but we have an image here explaining that it's not an issue, it's actually a feature of this high quality product. Then we have your kitchen essentials, you know, this is kind of the versatility used for the product. And lastly, we have summarizing what's special about this product: premium, raw, American honey, US grade, true source certified. As you can see, all we had to do, put the ASIN and all of these images were generated. Now, I will show you how exactly the workflow works. And as I said, we build it in N8N. And if you want, you can make a copy of this exact workflow. I will leave the link in the description so you can set it up and use yourself in your own business. So as I mentioned, all we need is the input. We actually have two versions of this. We have a manual input, like if you have a new product and there is not an existing listing yet, you can summarize all of the information that you want to include there. And then we have the automatic, which I just showed you, right? We use the ASIN, put it in there, and the listing is generated. So higher level, what happens in the background is that we have the data gathering. We're using Apify to scrape the listing, to understand the title, the bullet points, download the images, right? But also analyze the reviews, where AI agent actually looks at the reviews and understands what's in there. I will be also summarizing the cost, so you can see that this is very, very, very affordable compared to regular photo shoots or working with graphic designers, because the listing scrape is around 1 cent per listing. That's pretty good. Then we have the listing strategy. So once we have the data, it sends it to an agent that uses the reasoning and is prompted to actually be a listing strategist, to design the strategy for the listing, you know, to design the sequence of the images and so on. This is around 7 cents per listing, also pretty good. Then we generate the image prompts. That's what we've seen right here. You know, these are very necessary sending to Nano Banana Pro so they can actually generate these images, right? Those are very useful. So we have to generate the prompts and then send it to Nano Banana Pro to generate these images. This is the most expensive steps, is around 40 cents per image, depending on the resolution. But in this case, it's around 2000 to 2000 pixels, around 40 cents per image. Still very affordable. And then the delivery. So we receive the email, we receive the images on our Google Drive. And so the total is roughly $2.50 per listing. So it's very affordable and very useful, so we can use it at scale. You know, if you have 100, 200, 500 SKUs, still very doable. Definitely worth it. So let's take a look at the workflow. As I said, we are using N8N, and if you've never used N8N before, you might be quite intimidated, but don't worry. First of all, I have a detailed video on my channel, which I will also link in the description, where I explain all of the basics of N8N. N8N is an automation platform. It is a node-based automation platform. So it is a visual builder, something like this, and I will show you the specific workflow in there and explain everything, how it works on a high level. But it would definitely help you to understand the basics. And also, it's incredibly helpful, incredibly powerful. So even if you don't want to use specifically for this will allow you to automate pretty much anything, because you can combine AI, you can create, well, basically pretty much anything. And if you want to use this specific workflow, as I said, you can just copy it. I also will include a setup guide. So if you don't want to learn anything from N8N, you can still use the setup guide just to follow the steps to activate it in your own business. Because as you can imagine, we are using the API keys. So you just, to access these AI tools, so you will need to replace those to use your own. But other than that, the setup is fairly straightforward after you make the copy. So let's head into N8N. And as I mentioned, we have two workflows. One is the manual, where we essentially fill in the information about the product. As I mentioned, when you don't have the ASIN, maybe it's a new product, so you input product name, product details, brand identity, and then you upload the product image, and it's pretty much the same thing, right? So I'm gonna focus on the automated workflow, since that's gonna be relevant for most people, but it really changes only the stage of the input. So let's go into the workflow. Let me zoom out a little bit. And this is the full workflow, right? With all of these explanations, and now we're going to go step by step. So the first thing I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna upload the last run we did. As you can see, it took around 6 minutes to generate all of the images for the honey. I will copy it into the editor so I can show you the specifics, right? So let's take a look at the beginning. Again, I understand it might be quite intimidating, but don't worry, I will explain everything. So at the beginning, we have the form submission. That's where we put the ASIN, right? That's all there is. So once we put the ASIN, it goes into the scrapers. And as I said, we are scraping the listing itself, the images, and the bullet points, the title. So that is the listing scraper right here. It is using Epify, and Epify is a website that allows you to scrape websites like Amazon, right? And here we can see, once this is sent, what N8N gets back from Epify. So as you can see on the right side, we have information what we received after we asked Epify to scrape this particular ASIN, right? So we sent this ASIN, told Epify, hey, we want information about this, and we received this. So as you can see, we have the URL, we have the title, we have all of the features, we have the image listing, the image links, and product description. So anything you might want to know about this product, everything that's on the page is now here. Also, simultaneously what happens is a review scraper. It's the same thing, but this time we are actually scraping reviews, specific reviews from customers, right? So it basically looks up the ASIN, looks at the reviews, and start downloading the specific reviews and what the customer actually said about the product. And as you can see, text, my grandson loved the honey, right? So as you can see, we had multiple reviews right here. What happens next is that we basically need to change the data that Epify returns so the next agent can work with it. What happens with the image is actually we need to get the main image, and we also download one secondary image, because that's what's going to be sent to Gemini so it understands what the product looks like, right? But because as you can see here in the images, it looks exactly as the product. So it uses the main image for that. And once it downloads the image, you can see, view, this is what we see, what it downloaded, right? Again, it used the link that we scraped before, so it downloaded the image. And in order to send it to the AI, again, I don't want to get too technical, but in order to send it to the AI, we need to change it to essentially a text string, right? Because we cannot send with API call just the file. We basically need to change it into something that the AI understands, right? You don't need to understand what this actually means, but it's essentially turning the image into text that we can then send to Gemini so it understands what the product looks like, right? And we do this again in N8N, so we are extracting from the file and essentially changing the format of the file. What happens simultaneously, and this is the more important part, we take the product information from the product listing, you know, the name and bullet points, because we want to send it to our agent, the listing strategist, who analyzes the reviews and everything about the product. So first of all, it aggregates all of the reviews we gathered, and it merges the information from the product listing. So essentially what we are left with is the product listing data and the product description and all of the information from the reviews. We are kind of merging everything together so we can then send it to the listing strategies. And this is the main part where we have AI playing a big role here, right? Before we generate the images, we need to design the strategy. That's why we have the prompt generator right here. And the prompt generator actually has a very detailed prompt that it basically understands how to design these listings, how to design these prompts, right? So if we just take a peek on how this AI agent is trained, we have our system prompt right here. So let me open it so you can see it. So it basically says you are an Amazon listing strategy specializing in secondary image optimization and so on. And then there's all of this design philosophy, you know, describing how the images should be structured. Because as I said, we have the emotional hook, right? That's the best thing for most products to use as image 2, primary use case, and so on. So this prompt really includes pretty much everything to create these beautiful images, not to mention the specifics, how to describe the image for Nano Banana. So it really knows, you know, how to use the light, where to use a close-up and all of these things. So we spend a lot of time actually designing the system prompt to really get output like this. So now the agent receives all of the information we scraped about the product and the reviews, and it creates the output that's necessary for Gemini, for Nano Banana Pro that will generate it. I will also show you what it looks like if we use a different model, because for this agent, we are using Claude to create these listing prompts, right? What I showed you, the ideation behind it, the description of the scene. We are using Claude, but for some of these, we also use Gemini. So you can see how these two models think differently. The system prompt will be identical, but some of the images then I will show you generated by Gemini, and some of them I bar Claude. So you kind of see how these two models think differently. And once this designs the prompts, all of this is merged, right? The images we had here and the prompt we generated. Now it's split into specific prompts because we are generating 6 separate images, right? So it basically takes all of the data, merges the information about data 1, you know, that's image 1, data 2, it's image 2, and then the output, you know, image number, image type, emotional hook, colors, overall feel, scene description. So all of that is right here. Now we just split it out. So each and every single prompt is separated. And now we are going to send it into a sub workflow, which is essentially a workflow that sends these to Nano Banana. And this is basically going until we get all of our 6 images. So it goes 1, 2, 3, all the way to 6 images. So if I go here, I will leave without saving. We have a Nano Banana Pro image generator. So it's basically receiving all of the information that these agents generated and sending it to Nano Banana, right? And Nano Banana Pro then generates these images. If I go here into executions, and I will go copy to editor so you can see our last run. So it basically sends this request, and I will go show data, and sends this request, and it generates the image, and then it's basically prompted to upload the files into our Google Drive, and that workflow is then done, right? So it is fairly straightforward. Again, I understand if you've never seen N8N before, it might look intimidating. Highly recommend to watch the video. But even if you don't want to learn this, You can truly implement this. We really wrote down the implementation for this, really step by step. So pretty much anyone can set this up in 20 minutes. You just change the API keys. So what I basically showed you here in this workflow, all you will be doing is changing a specific node here for the scrape. So you will be changing URL here. Then you will be changing the URL for the API key for the model for Gemini or Claude. And then, of course, your email where you want to send it. And then the specific Nano Banana workflow. So again, you will need the API key from Google for Nano Banana. And that's pretty much it. So you will copy it, set up your N8N account, and you are good to go. You can start generating images. So I actually wanted to show you a few more examples, because when we generate images, some of them are fairly easy and some of them are harder. As you can imagine, something like the honey, it's relatively easy, because it's just a bottle, and Gemini or Nano Banana Pro understands very well what the jar should look like. It's a glass jar, fairly common. But some products will be a bit harder, so might be harder to get it right. Especially clothes, jewelry, or art, some very complex designs that you want to replicate one-to-one. It might be quite hard, but it doesn't mean impossible. In some cases, we just want to run the workflow 2 times, 3 times, so we get really good images. So I wanted to show you a few more that are a little bit harder for the AI than the actual honey. So we ran this for dog bandana. So we did the exact same thing. We copied the ASIN, put it into the workflow, and generated it. And I want to show you the result. So if I go the dog bandana, we have it here. Again, this is the first image, the first secondary image. We have the emotional hook. As you can see, it's beautiful, looks amazing. Then we have the next image. Then we have the product quality, the material, built to last. Here we have, again, the objection reframe, because some people might complain, that it doesn't fit, they have smaller dog, they have these concerns. So that's why we have this image, secure not put all day, the cotton holds tight. As you can see, the product, actually a lot of detail, right? Even if you zoom in, it's quite incredible because this is AI generated, right? And then this photo, I think this is one of the best photos I generated with AI. Perfect for every occasion. And lastly, premium quality, everyday price with the badges, right? And it has the information about the reviews. It has the information that it's machine washable because it actually scraped the full listing. So I think pretty good, right? It did a pretty good job, actually, even though it's cloth, it might be a little bit harder to visualize. It did pretty well, even with the pattern. The next product I wanted to show you was a coffee machine from Amazon Basics, quite a boring product, right? But here I wanted to show you the difference between Claude, the LLM model, and Gemini, because they actually have a slightly different approach. The system prompt is exactly the same. We are telling the AI agent to behave this way. The assignment is exactly the same, but you will see that the output is quite different. I actually noticed that Gemini is a little bit more feature-oriented, a little bit more robotic, right? This is what I imagine AI optimizing the listings. But Claude is actually very good when it comes to the emotional hooks, right? Because if we take a look at the honey right here, pure morning ritual. It's nothing about the product, how big the jar is, it's just very, very oriented for the benefits. While Gemini, if we take a look, again, these are all AI generated, compact design, big flavor. Your perfect morning starts here. Okay. Then we have some detail, primary use case, reusable filter included, no paper filters needed. This is great, but it's really feature oriented, right? So it really depends what are your preferences, what your audience responds to, because it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, right? Because more lifestyle products will be all about the emotions, while something very that's bought for the utility might need to focus on the feature, space-saving footprint, brews 5 cups, right? So Gemini, all about the features, fits everywhere. And then we have quality you can trust, the badges, Amazon, glass carafe, and then the reviews. But as you can see, the product, it's amazing, right? It did a very good job because all it had was this sad image, and it did a pretty good job from different angles. And even the inside, right? Then I double checked and it actually did a pretty good job actually understanding how the product works inside as well. But now let's take a look at Claude, because Claude, again, more emotions, right? Your perfect morning, simple, reliable, just right. I personally like the copywriting of Claude way more. Can't wait, don't, right? This is kind of tackling the objections on the issues that people might have, that it takes too long to brew the coffee, right? So here is the idea that it doesn't take long, no nonsense engineering. I also like this presentation of that. Sometimes it doesn't do a great job with the fonts, that sometimes it just decides to change the fonts for no reason. But there's nothing easier than just actually taking the photo and putting it into Gemini and, do the last manual adjustment that you will say like, hey, change this font, because it can do a really good job editing the photos. So again, 80% of images will be great, or I would run the whole workflow again. I would spend $2 more just to get another variation and then mix and match how it works. Because with these products, it's a little bit harder since the branding is not as well defined. If you have something where the branding is just clear like the honey, the listings will be great. But if it's something more generic, we are kind of leaving it up to the AI to come up with the branding on its own, so it might be slightly different, right? So as you can see, Claude, again, because your morning routine should be simple, not a science project, right? I really like these. Right size for real life and worry-free brewing with the badges. As you can see, I really, really love the design. Again, all generated with one click. And lastly, we have this oversized sweatshirt, because the clothes, especially like these, might be hard for AI, but the way we set this up, I tested it, so I'm gonna show you how it handled this hoodie. Ultimate cozy warmth, like wearing a warm hug. So if you can guess if this is Claude or Gemini, right? Of course, this is Claude. Ultimate cozy warmth, like leaving a warm hug, and move freely, stay cozy. Again, very nice. And as you can see, the product is actually shown very well. It's the same color, right? It's beautiful. And here, double layer luxury, like even these details, the stitching, like just look at that. It's really amazing. Then we have oversized by design. We are tackling the objections from the reviews. Some people complaining that it's too big, but we're saying like it is supposed to be big, right? It's not a defect, it's not a problem. We have one size fits all. And here it actually added a little puppy, which I approve. And perfect for indoors and outdoors. We have the same issue with the font, I believe. No, actually, these are fine. Perfect for indoors, outdoors, and then it chose to do it as a perfect gift, because likely a lot of people here mentioned in the reviews that they buying it as a gift for someone. So this was a showcase, the same workflow, just using different ASINs, that it was able to handle very different niches, right? Jar of honey, consumable product, then we had this bandana, we had coffee machine, and we had this oversized hoodie. And as I said, if you want to use this workflow, you can make a copy. I will leave the link in the description. And just to make it easier for you, we also included a guide how to set this up. It's free, that you can just open this Nano Banana Pro and N8N automation. You will copy it. And then there's literally step-by-step how to set up Epify, how to set up your Google AI Studio, how to set up N8N. Everything here is in detail, right? So even if you don't have any experience with N8N, you will be able to replicate this in your business and start using it. But of course, what offers here when it comes to creating these automations in N8N, it's not just about this one. You can change the system prompt and start generating images for your social media, right? You can start generating content for TikTok, right? Because once you unlock the power of AI automation and you understand how all of these pieces work and how you can combine these tools, it is incredibly powerful. This is just one little thing that I just showed you, but you should really understand these tools because it's only going to get more powerful going forward. So that's it for today, and I will see you next week. Bye.